Ladies and gents, welcome back to another episode of Mike's Gourmet Kitchen. It's been a while since we put out a video, but we are back on track. Today we are making some delicious buttermilk rusks, also known as Buttermilk Beskuit. A very popular South African recipe, and it's something that we all in South Africa enjoy almost every day. You can eat it as a snack for breakfast or anything like that. It's a delicious dried out bread with a very sweet texture, typically dunked in some tea, hot chocolate, coffee, anything like that. If you guys do enjoy today's video, please drop a like down below, comment and subscribe. Let's get cooking. Okay, first up, let's start with our mixing bowl. Got a nice big glass bowl. The portions I'm preparing is we're preparing about 25 pieces of rusks. So for that we will need about half a kilo of self-raising flour. Put that in there. We'll have 1 teaspoon of salt. You can use normal iodinated salt, don't use kosher salt, it's going to be a bit gritty. And then our third dry ingredient is some bicarbonate of soda. This will give it some fluff, lift it up, because we are going to be baking it for about 45 to 60 minutes. And we don't want some hard, lumpy dough forming, so just 1 teaspoon of that. There we go. Make it nice and fluffy. Great, let's grab our whisk. Let's whisk all of this in. Make sure there's no lumps in the flour, it has a nice smooth texture to it. There we go, perfect. So this will move to the side. And next up, we'll grab about 130-135 grams of butter. We are a bit easy on that. You can choose whichever one you want. It doesn't really make that too much of a difference. And also we have about 150 grams of caster sugar. So the caster sugar with butter, we're going to mix it together and quickly melt it on the stove. Great, let's get some heat going. Into our pan, 130 grams of butter. And our 150 grams of caster sugar. Now we want to keep the heat pretty low for this and melt it slowly. We'll turn it down a bit and stir it continuously. So I am actually using caster sugar for this. You can use plain white sugar or some brown sugar. It's just a bit easier to melt the caster sugar, so you do save a bit of time, and it's a lot easier to mix in. You don't get that gritty feeling inside the dough or the batter for the buttermilk rusks. One thing you do not want to do is you don't want to burn the sugar. Okay, so I'll check back with you guys as soon as this is all melted up together. You want a nice, smooth, glossy finish. You don't want any granulation or fattiness lurking inside the pot. Okay, perfect. So our butter and sugar is melted up completely. Let's have a look here. Look at that. Before we add it to the mixture, we'll just give it a quick blitz again. Make sure it goes nice and glossy. We'll put this to the side. Okay, perfect. Back to our dry ingredients from earlier. We have this. To this mixture now, we will be adding our egg. So 1 large egg. Here we go. Beautiful. Always keep a cloth nearby. The smell of egg is not great. Then to our half a kilo of flour, we are adding some cultured buttermilk or Buttermilk. We're only adding about 300 grams, so it equates to about 300 mils. Here we go. Beautiful. Got a nice tart taste to it, which will be counteracted by all the delicious flavor from the butter and the sugar. Okay, let's go ahead and give this a nice mixture. You're going to see it's a quite lumpy mix. We're just going to get most of this ingredients in there, give it a quick mush. Perfect, our butter and sugar is beautifully combined. Just have a look at that. Let's add that to the mix. It's still a bit warm, so don't stick your hands in there directly, rather grab a whisk. The dough consistency we are going for is similar to that of cookie dough or scone dough. You don't want it to be runny like a batter, because we are going to be rolling these into little balls or pushing them flat into a tray. But we'll talk a bit more about that later. Now, you don't want to mix it too much. You just want to get all the dry spots gone, because we want this dough to be very fluffy. And we don't want the consistency of bread dough to form. Okay, perfect. So there we have it. That's our dough that we're going to be using. You'll see it's very lumpy. It's not mixed thoroughly into like a smooth paste. We don't want that. We want air to get in between the flour when we put it in the pan, so it rises nicely. We've got quite a bit of bicarb in there as well to give it some lift. Alright, moving on from here, we'll preheat our oven to 180 degrees Celsius. That's about 335 degrees Fahrenheit, give or take a few. And then we'll preheat our oven and start placing these into our baking trays. Great, these are what we're going to be using. Normal cookie trays. You could use, normal bread baking trays. I'm going to show you two methods of doing this. One is rolling into balls, and the other one is just making a flat layer of dough, similar to making a focaccia, into the baking trays. One is for if we want to cut into nice, perfect rectangular slices, and the other one, it's more of a dough ball that you break apart in a group. I'll show you both methods now. Great, let's start with our biggest one first. I'll be using one of these icing spatulas, and for this, we're just going to grab heapfuls of our dough, press it down into our baking tray. I did spray these down with some spray and cook, so they will not stick to the base. Nicely into all the corners, there we go. Make sure you've got a nice even layer all the way throughout. This doesn't have to be perfect, just more or less, just eyeball it. There we go. Cooking is not an exact science, unless you Michelin starred chef or something. There we go. So this is our flat tray. This is what we're going to be using. I prefer this method because I can cut them into nice slices. It's easier for when you do the packaging. When you put them into glass containers, it's airtight. You can cut them into nice perfect sizes, like fingerling sizes almost. Similar to your boudoir biscuits. Same thing. Now the next method we are going to be doing is rolling them into little round balls, about a golf ball size, and then placing them individually inside the container. Okay, moving on to our next method, I'll be using a normal tablespoon and some warm water. It's just to dip your fingers into so the balls don't stick to your hands. And there we go, using this little container. Grab this, about a golf ball size, dip our fingers, grab it, and then quickly roll it. Don't squish it too much or get too much moisture on it. We just want it to look like that, and that will go in, and we'll just continue the process. Beautiful, that's what we are looking for. Little balls inside a container. And these are going into the oven at the same time as the other ones. Afterwards, we'll compare the difference. We're going to let these bake now for about 45 to 60 minutes. Typically the dough balls are pretty quicker. They take about 45 minutes, and the flat pressed out dough takes about 60 minutes at a time. Great, both of them are in. Just another quick tip, if they do start to get brown on top too much too quickly, just cover them in some foil and continue baking. We'll check back in about 45 minutes. Beautiful, look at that. All done. Let's pull them out of the oven and have a look. Beautiful, so we pulled them out of the oven. As you can see here, you can hear that beautiful knocking sound on top. So they're all sorted now. We are going to leave them for about 15 minutes to cool down, and then we'll pull them out of the trays and start cutting them up before we start drying them. Okay, perfect, there we go. Let's get these out of our baking trays or cake tins. Pull them out. Oh, this one broke. My goodness. Not a problem. That happens all the time. We are going to be slicing it. There you go. You will see it is a bit crumbly, but that's just how rusks are. We still need to dry them out. They are still a bit moist now at the moment. Next up, we'll grab our other one, which we rolled into the balls. You can see it right here. Let's grab that one. Did not rise as much, but you can see it's also very brittle, breaks apart right off the bat. Okay, perfect. Let's start with this one. We'll break it apart and then we'll move on to cutting the other one. See, it breaks exactly where the balls have formed. I don't want to do that. I want a nice smooth cut. I'm using a nice sharp knife. You could use a serrated blade. I prefer to use a nice sharp flat blade. Beautiful. There we go. So now we have these little rusk bites, little balls. If you wanted them bigger, by double the size, we've just doubled up, maybe to like a tennis ball size rusk. But these are also just as good. Now for these, we'll move on and add them to a baking tray. Give them a little bit of spacing in between, because we are going to be putting this back into the oven to dry out. Now these rusks are not the prettiest, but they are going to do the job. They are going to taste absolutely amazing. Now you could eat these just as is now. They'll make for a delicious type of bread, but we want to dry them out. Perfect, so this one did tear right through the middle here, which is not a problem. I'm going to flip it on its side. I'm going to cut straight through just to separate it from the main piece of dough, which is not a problem. That we will cut out and we'll maybe eat it as is or something like that. Great. Got a beautiful square here. Now for this one, I'm not going to use the flat blade or normal blade. For demonstration purposes, let's use a serrated blade. So these we want to cut into like finger lengths. So we'll cut it here and then across. Okay, we're just going to continue with that, but this is what they will look like. Little short fingerling rusks. Now we'll repeat this process for the rest of the bread, and then I'll catch up with you guys again when we put it back into the oven. And that is it, guys. So I cut up all our rusks. You can see the different styles. I cut into different sizes and shapes. So this is now literally going into our oven at about 60 degrees Celsius for the next 6 hours. It should dry it out completely. After then, while they're hot, let them cool down so there's no moisture, and then once they're completely cold, take them out of the oven, put them in some jars, nice airtight, and you can keep these for a few months at a time, no problem at all. And that is it for today's episode. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching. If you do enjoy the content, drop a like down below, comment and subscribe. If there's anything else you'd like to see, drop them in the comments down below. We'll respond to them as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching. Have a great day. Cheers.